Hello and welcome. This is Tigrai Television English Program Service coming to you live from Magala. I'm Lalam Techano with today's news, and here are the details. A drone attack by the Ethiopian Air Forces on Friday killed a 60-year-old man. The victim was a cattle herder who died on the way to a hospital. The airstrike targeted a residential area known as Adahausi in the capital Magala. Our reporters spoke to the families of the victim and residents of the area who say that the Ethiopian government needs to stop targeting civilians. Solomon Tigrai reports.
The
Ethiopian government has yet again conducted another round of drone attack in Magala on Friday, killing a 60-year-old cattle herder who was on his way to work. The airstrike took place at around 5 in the morning in a residential area called Adahausi, which has no military target.
When it was around 5 a.m., I heard a heavy sound. It was dark. I was worried where it hit this time. I had no idea that it would be him. It's my husband.
Residents of the area say that the attack was conducted while they were all asleep, and it has left many, especially children, traumatized.
We were sleeping. It was conducted when children were asleep. It was very shocking. All they're ever targeting is civilian installations.
It targeted a residential area. Everyone knows that there is no target for them here. It is only a residential area. It is just a part of their plan to exterminate the people of Tigray. The battlefront is not here, but they are bombing us when we are asleep. Houses and civilian property have been destroyed. Conducting an air attack where children, mothers, and the elderly are sleeping is cruel. Such attacks are only meant to be carried out in the front where there is military movement, not where there are civilians. This was done deliberately to kill civilians.
This is the fifth time that the Ethiopian government has conducted an aerial attack against residential areas and civilian installations in Magala since the resumption of the war on Tigray after 5 months of ceasefire.
Women's Association of Tigrai say the International Commission of Human Rights expert on Ethiopia must carry out an investigation that fully addresses the survivors of sexual violence in Tigray. The association says the commission also needs to visit Tigray where crimes including the use of rape as a weapon of war has been committed. The association appreciated the efforts taken by the International Commission to uncover atrocities perpetrated on the people of Tigray. On Monday, the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia has issued its preliminary report where it said it had found a reasonable grounds to believe that crime against humanity and war crimes have been committed by Ethiopian government in Tigray. Following the invasion of Tigray by the Eritrean forces, Amhara militia, the Fano vigilante group in the Ethiopian National Defense Forces in November 2020, countless people have been massacred and millions were forcefully displaced to different parts of Tigray as well as the neighboring Sudan. Residents of Western Tigray are among the most affected and displaced by the deadly war. Our reporters have been to Maiweni IDP Center in Magala and spoke to Tzadkan Milmil from Maikatra, Western Tigray, who says she is in dire need of humanitarian assistance as the all-encompassing siege in the war continue to make her life worse. Haile Gabru reports.
Tzadkan Milmil was forced to leave her residence behind because the atrocities that were being committed on Tigrayans by the Ethiopian National Defense Forces and their allies. She said that currently she remains helpless as her entire family members have fled to Sudan.
I am from Maikatra, Western Tigray. It was on November 9, 2020 that we were forced to leave our place of origin because the Amhara forces have been committing atrocities on Tigrayans there in Maikatra. Sadly, I'm alone here. The rest family members have left to Sudan. I don't know the whereabouts of my cousins too.
She also says that she is experiencing a trauma due to the family disintegration coupled with the absence of medication. She also stated that the siege that has long imposed on Tigray made her unable to get insulin as she used to do before.
I have no one here. Loneliness is about to kill me. Following the stress, I fainted out many times. Even it puts me on fire. Bathroom as well. I become unconscious when this happens to me. I used to take an insulin for my disease before, but now it's inaccessible due to the complete siege. Worst of all, I have no one who can take care of me during such an incident. It's awful. These days, this is making me sustain psychological stress. Look, my body has burned because it made me faint out for a reason that I cannot understand. Doctors advised me to live in an isolated room, but it's impossible to do that due to the fact that I'm living in an IDP center.
Tzadkan also said that she is starved today because humanitarian aid has been banned from entering into Tigray. She also further stressed that thousands of people who have been sheltered inside Mayawina IDP center are in desperate situation.
I was being helped by residents of Magala city, but now these people need help for themselves due to the siege. The existing situation here is horrific. I have nothing to eat, I'm starving. My health condition is deteriorating from time to time.
She also called on the international community to put strong pressure on the Ethiopian government and its allies so as to lift the brutal siege imposed on Tigray.
I'm in a difficult situation. I can't even get an insulin as well as food aid due to the siege. Thus, the world should give us an attention at this critical time. We are about to perish as a society.
Tzadkan's story speaks volumes not only about the millions of Tigrayans who have been forcibly displaced from their sweet homes. It speaks for them about the entire people of Tigray who have been cut off from the world, even without the basics such as food, medicines, fuel, and the like.
The Ethiopian National Defense Forces, Amhara Special Forces, and allies from Eritrea have committed countless atrocities in western Tigray. We spoke to an eyewitness from Adabai district who lost her husband due to torture and lack of medicine and deprivation of food. Avra Gabrielsay has more.
We met Ms. Mulu sheltering at an IDP camp in Mekelle after she was forcibly expelled from Adabai in western Tigray by the Amhara expansionist groups and Eritrean Defense Forces. She says she witnessed the horrors of ethnic-based mass killings at Adabai, where her husband suffered a lot in prison and later died at the Debit IDP camp, northwestern Tigray. She says she was prohibited from serving food to her husband when he was in prison. Mulu says her husband died from torture-induced illnesses and lack of food and medicine.
When they first came, they rounded up all men from the church and took them and gathered them in a sesame store where the temperature was extremely boiling. They prohibited serving food and drink, and they would say, "We don't allow food to Tigrayanis. We want them die from hunger and suffocation." My husband suffered a lot in prison. They tortured him for months and released him, but he later died from the torture-induced illnesses and lack of medication, as we couldn't get medical service when we arrived at the Debit IDP camp.
Mulu says the Amhara militia and Fano vigilante groups, together with Eritrean forces, have committed unspeakable atrocities at Adabai, including arbitrary killings of innocent civilians and lootings of properties.
Unspeakable atrocities have been committed in Adabai. They took all the men they found in the church to prison. The other men they found in tavern houses and outside in the street were chased after and shot dead. Birasau and Wogas were among the deceased ones. They prohibited burying the bodies, so their bodies were eaten by scavengers. Many have been drowned into Tekaze River, attempting to flee the atrocities, and hundreds of youths have been taken to Eritrea and never returned.
Mulu also says life has become tougher even after she fled the gruesome atrocities in Adabai. She says she couldn't get enough food and clothing at the Debit IDP camp, and she came to another IDP center in Mekelle, having buried her husband there. Even after she arrived at Mekelle, she couldn't feed her mother, who is suffering from tuberculosis. Mulu says her sick mother is in dire condition as she couldn't tolerate the medicine she has been taking to treat TB without enough food.
I couldn't help my sick mother. She's 80 and she's suffering from tuberculosis. I have been providing her with food, selling the few utensils I have received from aid agencies. But now I have exhausted everything and my mother is suffering a lot as she could not tolerate the medicine she has been taking without enough food. Milk powder that I used to buy for 800 has now reached 1500 birr, a price that I couldn't afford. The life we're living is hard. No food, no proper clothing and bed.
The desperate woman called the international community to help her mother, who represents many suffering people in Tigray, to get the badly needed food.
My mom is quitting her medication because of lack of food, and this means she would die. I beg everyone to help me save my mother. The medicine is taken with milk, but milk is far from our reach now, so please help.
Lack of basics like food and medication left millions in Tigray devastated as the ongoing siege continues to tighten amidst the escalating war in Tigray. Among these are IDPs sheltered in different parts of Tigray away from their family and home. Almaz Berhane was displaced from western Tigray due to the ethnic cleansing campaign in western Tigray by Ethiopian forces and allies, who says her living condition keeps on worsening due to the total blockade and the resumed war on Tigray. For more, Wintakidana.
Almaz Berhane is 68 years old, who has been sheltered in Maiweni IDP center in Mekelle. She left her home in Idris, western Tigray, when Ethiopian forces, Amhara militia and the Fano vigilante group invaded her village in November 2020. Almaz remembers the moment she left her home as follows.
They came to my house and started taking away the grain I saved in my store. While they were doing that, I escaped through the back door. I'd nowhere to go but the street, and fortunately I found a tractor that was heading to Takaza. From there I walked on foot to Shira. With the help of my neighbors, then I came to Mekelle by car.
Almaz says her journey to Mekelle was a gruesome experience as she left her home empty-handed.
I left home empty-handed, and on my way I wasn't able to find any food to eat or clothes to change. People who lived in villages along the way used to give us some food, but the majority of my journey was through mountains, and there were no people there. Then we had to walk a long distance empty stomach.
Almaz suffers from diabetics. She says she has been diabetic for 3 years now, but it didn't really bother her much until recently, wherein she is unable to get medication.
I've been diabetic patient for about 3 years now. I used to take my medication properly because back then the medicine was available, and I used to afford to buy it too. But here, even though the government gave an access to free medication, there's no medication in hospitals due to the ongoing siege. I heard private pharmacies have the medications, but I can't afford to buy it.
Almaz adds that the lack of medication has exacerbated her health condition badly.
There was a time where I wasn't able to get any medication for 3 days, and I found myself in a more infuriated situation. I kept on vomiting, and I had a high fever during those days. It was like the first days when I knew that I was diabetic. It was then that people in this IDP camp chip in some money to buy me some medicine.
Almaz also says, although her health condition requires strict diet, she is forced to eat whatever aid she can get every now and then. The question, however, is whether she is even able to get any, for she is among the millions affected by the man-made starvation that continue to claim lives throughout Tigray.
On top of my other problems, I can't even eat whatever I found due to my illness. I can't eat any wet or glucose-rich foods, but at the end of the day, when I'm desperately hungry, I take a bite of bread, and it ends even hurting me more. Every 3 or 4 months, we get 15 kilograms of wheat aid, and I try to exchange it with F, but that's not enough, as there is no one who would cook it for me. It wouldn't even make any difference, I just miss the old days.
Almaz finally calls on the international community to take action to break the siege and allow the entrance of humanitarian assistance.
We're starving and living in this misery, away from our home. Because of the siege, we have no access to medication or food, and we're trying to survive in this darkness. We need food, medication, and we need help to go back home too.
As medical supply and basic life supporting items are being depleted from all over Tigray due to the ongoing siege imposed by the Ethiopian government, situations has gotten worse than ever. TB patients who used to lead a normal life with the help of medications are now suffering from an extreme stress and prospect of death due to lack of medical supply. Haile Gabru has more on this.
As the year-long war and the siege that followed it have devastated the health system of Tigray, it has also left thousands of chronically ill patients at the brink of death. In addition to this, the all-encompassing siege in Tigray has terminated basics such as food and medical supplies, putting many lives in danger. Kiddu Charkos is a TB patient displaced from Maikadra, western Tigray, who is now sheltered at Maiweni IDP center in Mekelle.
I used to take an injection for TB for a quite long time. However, now I'm forced to stop my medication due to the siege imposed on Tigray. Besides, my body is partially paralyzed for a reason I can't quite understand. I wish I could go out and use bathroom on my own. Sadly, my daughter has to carry me on her back when I need to go out somewhere. It can't be easy doing it all the time. Now I need a wheelchair badly.
Cherkos also said that she is suffering from skin inflammation, but she is not taking medicine for it either. However, she added that doctors prescribed her anti-inflammatory creams for her skin where she was in Tigray, Western Tigray.
I have been deprived of my right to get a medicine. How dare a government deny access to a medicine for its own citizens? It really is infuriating. I have been to different health centers for medication so far, but I couldn't get it yet. I'm suffering a lot.
Finally, she called on the international community to stop those who have seized Western Tigray illegitimately so that she too would be able to start up leading a normal life as she has always done.
The people of Tigray must be freed soon. The humanitarian tragedy should also be put to an end for good. Worse thing is that we commented. I'm afraid the situation may worsen if this continues as the way of war is. What is happening in Tigray is quite concerning. I pray that God gives us His mercy.
It was in the month of February that a report released by the World Health Organization WHO indicating that close to 4 million people in Tigray are going without much needed medical attention.
And that's all we have for this edition. Thanks for watching. See you next time.